Hey team, welcome back to another incredible episode of the Intentional Agribusiness Leader Podcast. This is your host, Mark Jewell, and I am again joined by Christine and John here from the team. Guys, practical, tactical ways to hold people accountable. It comes up in all the conversations these days. How do I hold people accountable? How do I get people to do what I need them to do? I think what some people are looking for is like, how do I do this without having to feel like a jerk? Or how do I lead people without having to micromanage them all the time? Let's dive into this. What do you guys got for me?
Yeah, so I actually did recently. I did a momentum lab on holding people accountable, and it was part 2 of a 3-part series. Create an initiative within your team, so you can go back and listen to that if you want some more. But the first thing I think is when you're holding people accountable, like before you hold anybody accountable, you have to set expectations. You have to set clear expectations, because it is really hard to hold people accountable if your team doesn't know what the expectations are. Mm-hmm. Right? If there's too much gray area, if it's not black and white, there's too much gray area, then there can be too many excuses, or there can be too many like, well, I thought you meant this, mm-hmm. Or I thought it was supposed to be like this, and then it's really hard to hold people accountable if it was left up to opinion, mm-hmm. and you can't go back and say, no, this is what we agreed upon. This is what was supposed to happen. This is how it was supposed to happen, when, with who, mm-hmm. right? And then this is what success looked like. And if you didn't go through that process of setting those clear expectations, mm-hmm. it's really hard, almost maybe even impossible, to hold somebody accountable.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would agree to that. And I love, yes, the expectations. I consider the expectation as like the standard. This is the standard of excellence. Mm-hmm. This is the standard of completion. This is what done looks like. And you said it. You said the words. So I'm going to tap in, because I think expectations and agreements are different, and we need both. The expectation is the standard. Like, this is what success looks like. This is what done. This is what closing the loop is. Are we clear? Okay, now can we form an agreement? Are we in agreement that this is how we're going to communicate? Are we in agreement that this is the cadence? Like, so now we have an agreement. And what's interesting is when I make an agreement with someone, now we both are invited to step up and show up. It's not just you telling me what your expectations of me are, but I'm actually agreeing. So now when you're calling the thing out, you're not calling me out. You're saying, hey, remember that agreement we had? Where are we at with that? Because I don't want to be someone who breaks agreements. So I think this is a really powerful thing, is number one, to your point, people don't have clear expectations. You haven't sat down to actually define the standards. But the next step is, do we actually have an agreement where we both verbally said, yes, this is what it means to us? And agreements are usually on paper. So if it isn't on a page, we're not on the same page. Okay? So if it's not on a page, we are not on the same page. So once we have an agreement, then I would say, okay, let's get this documented. Let's get this agreement on paper. Maybe that looks like a table that we're checking things off. Maybe it's a checklist. Maybe it's a process checklist. But this is our agreement, right? We have it. We know the purpose of it. We know what success looks like. And the purpose and success are on the paper, as well as the process or whatever, right? And so this isn't about a contract. It's just that, like, hey, there's no room for confusion here.
Yes.
Right? So we eliminate the weight of confusion, because confusion is heavy. Mm-hmm. And so now we have clarity. And so now we can go, okay, is it a systems problem? Is it a problem around the agreement, or is it that? So I wanted to, that's a big thing that I think helps us to carry forward from just talking about it and thinking like, I know what my expectations are. And now there's like, we're suffering with unmet expectations all the time, which was where a lot of us live. We live in the place of unmet expectations, because to your point, we didn't say it. We certainly didn't have an agreement. And I bet you 90% of the time it is not on a piece of paper.
Right.
And this is why also within our team, I'm a bit of a, sometimes I can be like, yeah, especially with Audie, she's my direct report, but it's like, put it on a piece of paper. Where's the process? I'm not always looking at it, but I know that if it's on a piece of paper, that we've both created it. We've both approved it. Now we can, it's not about calling somebody out. It's about, hey, let's get back to the agreement. You know what I mean?
And you've actually taken the time to do it, right? Which I think is half of the value, or a big part of the value. And we talk about this on the show a lot. Like, to do the intentional things takes time.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. And if you think about your time, like what is it, like 86,400 seconds or something in a day? If you got $1 for each one of those seconds, that means like each day you're allocating $86,400, right? Around. And you got to allocate a certain amount for sleep, and you got to allocate a certain amount for family, and then you got this other third. So a third of that or so is allocated. You got to figure out how to allocate those resources, to your team. It's like, when you start looking at how few dollars are left out of the original 86,000, right? And I got to allocate all this time to get my work done. It's like, man, like, how much can I afford to allocate to intention, to setting the expectations, and to getting it all down on a piece of paper? It becomes really that becomes really valuable when you put a money value to it, and that's how valuable it is.
Mm. And the good thing is, if you have the standards on a piece of paper, you don't have to they're already there. We just keep pulling it out again. We're presenting it at the top of every meeting. We're presenting it in our one-on-ones. We're just going, hey, let's check in. How are we doing on these things? We don't have to use all this bandwidth, to your point, to do it. Another thing that comes up for me when it comes to accountability, I'm thinking, okay, I think about those 10 years that I had the fitness facility, the high performance facility. And everybody in fitness they want to have an accountability coach, right? Like, they want to be accountable to their plan. They want to be like, they need accountability. That so much of this stuff is foreign to them. So I'm kind of also thinking back to some of the things that we also did in that environment that were really leading to success. The second thing that I wanted to mention there was cadence of accountability. So every month, if it was a client, they knew that they were going to meet with an accountability coach. It was every month. And guess what? When they showed up, it was the same sheet that the coach would work through them. It was always the same questions. It was always the same metrics that we would check, and we would challenge the same areas. So, we could actually track progress over time, and we could, see patterns. And so whether we're doing one-on-ones or we're doing quarter, like, what is the cadence? You need anything that you're doing that you want to have the same conversation with someone. We need to automate. If we're doing things over and over again, let's put it on a rhythm. Let's set it. Let's automate it. And so now the people know, okay, every week or every month or every 2 weeks, we're going to have a touch point. And in that touch point, there is an agenda. There already is a framework for, I know what to expect when we get together. Right? I already know what she's going to ask me. I already know what I'm going to present. And oh, by the way, we already have an agreement. So now this takes so much weight off of the coach or the leader to think, okay, what am I going to talk to them about? What are we going to go through? What metrics am I going to ask them? It's like, it's already there. There's a system. We're just following the system. We're honoring the process. So now this conversation is not about accountability. It's like, how are we doing in the process? Where do you need support? Where are we hitting the targets?
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And it's a different conversation. It does not feel like babysitting and dragging people along. But it's like, all right, I'm giving you the structure to succeed.
Yeah. Quick interruption to the podcast here. Listen, at the end of the day, most of you have been through some sort of training and development. If you're listening to this podcast, you're probably interested in personal and or professional development. And here's the reality. In the corporate space, most of it's bad. Let's be honest. Most of it has been a death by PowerPoint situation that really doesn't progress you, your team. It doesn't move the needle. It's not aligned to business priorities. That is why I really am asking you to take a look at the Thriving Leader program. In the show notes below, go to the link and click through to our Thriving Leader website. The Thriving Leader was designed with the learner in mind. Adult learners today don't need another death by PowerPoint situation. They don't want to waste their time going to a training, being at an event that doesn't actually get them the results and that isn't actually relevant to where they are in life. The three biggest challenges that leaders have today are time management, stress, and work-life balance. The Thriving Leader works to solve those and so many more things. Click on in the link in the show notes, learn about the Thriving Leader, and join us at an upcoming public event and see what it's all about. We believe that today's leaders hold a moral obligation to create environments within which their people can thrive. Whether you're the one leader on your team or whether you're the leader of 10, 20, or more, It's time to see what you can do to create an environment within which you and others can truly, truly thrive. 6 months from now, a year from now, 18 months from now, the time will have gone by. The question I have for you is, during that time frame, are you surviving or are you thriving? Click the link today. And I think so many of these meetings, accountability meetings, team meetings, everybody just waits for the boss to show up and then hand out the agenda or send it out in an email ahead of time or not have one at all, but is in charge of the meeting. It's like, okay, what are we talking about? And then nobody's prepared to talk about their metrics.
Correct.
And so they have not been paying attention to their metrics, and they probably don't know. And it's like, well, and then I didn't update the CRM, so I can't prove. So we end up talking around things and there's no real accountability. I love it.
Yeah. And there's two things that we said there is like, as the leader, do I know what I'm looking for from my people? Or if I'm the coach and I'm like, okay, I'm guiding you through a process. And also the flip side of it is if you are building a high performing team and maybe you're looking at your dream team or executive team, now you can also have the accountability process of what they bring to the table every time. So maybe they're coming with 3 to 4 items that may or may not be key metrics. But again, we use this example a lot of every time we get together, I want you to bring 3 solutions to the table or 2 ideas or 1 opportunity that you see of waste, right? So it could be anything, but it's about now we're taking the conversation out of like holding them accountable to just get their job done to having leadership accountability to be proactive, looking ahead. How are we holding our team accountable to looking ahead? Well, that's part of the expectation. When you come to the meeting, our agreement is everybody's coming with foresight. What do you see? What do you see? What do you see? Okay. What have you thought about as solutions? What are your recommendations? Okay. What are yours? What are yours? That's accountability because we're all holding ourselves accountable to show up and keep innovating, keep looking for opportunities. And this is a real conversation I had with a client recently that was working on her dream team. And their whole thing is being disruptors in this industry. And they want to keep innovating. And while everybody's screaming recession and, oh my gosh, we're going through a really hard time, it's easy to get caught up in that. But she, like all great leaders, I think in these moments are looking at these times as seasons of opportunity. These are the times when the greatest contraction is. They're the moments where there's also the most opportunity. So are we holding our people accountable to keeping their eyes open to possibility, opportunity, instead of, oh my gosh, what's going wrong, right? Scarcity. So there's a lot of different ways to start to implement this, right? From the very bare bones, like, okay, we're starting getting somebody going, just showing up, going through training them on some basic KPIs, to training a team to be held accountable to a high level of thinking.
I want to point out something that I think is really important in this conversation right now, which is I think when people are asking us at Thriving Leader or wherever, how do I hold my team accountable? I think what they think, at least in their mind in that moment, is they're looking for ways like, how do I have a tough conversation with somebody I need to call out? Right?
Yes.
Like that's what's going through their mind. Yeah. Well, the conversation we're having here is actually building a better system, like a high-performing team. That's like you're actually building a system within which those people almost get to hold themselves accountable.
Yeah, and they can get results, and they're generating the results, and they're getting the tools to get there.
Yeah, and so now you're coaching instead of refereeing.
Yeah, it's really trying to build a culture of accountability. Like I work with a lot of leaders in teams that do not have a culture of accountability, and like you mentioned a process of accountability. There is no process.
Yeah.
So when somebody actually
there's no culture.
Exactly. And then when somebody actually does get held accountable, there's a lot of hurt feelings. Right? So we have to build this culture of accountability. And it's not where just the leader is holding the folks accountable. Yeah. It's the whole team is holding each other accountable. And that's really what we're after. Because if it's always up to the leader, then the leader's going to get burnt out, always having to like hold the hands of everybody and holding everybody accountable. But like what we're trying to do is create that team where everybody feels empowered.
Yeah.
To hold everybody accountable.
Well, and this comes back to core values. As I think back to even A lot of companies have their core values on the wall. We don't have an office space anymore, but in the old building, we had our core values on the wall, and one of them was radical ownership. Okay, so that's accountability. That's creating a culture. But it was integrated into our vernacular, of our conversations all the time. So we would celebrate radical ownership. We would talk about who showed up with radical ownership this week. How did we do that? Where are we doing it? Where are we not showing up with ownership? So it was part of our conversation. So I think to your point, when people were like, we didn't have a culture of accountability, is it even woven into your values? And maybe your language is accountability. Maybe, ours is radical ownership. Maybe it's stewardship. Now our upgraded values, we don't call it radical ownership anymore. We talk about stewardship.
Yep.
We have a responsibility for stewarding things. But whatever that is for the company, right? I'm curious. That's really the thing that we're talking about is, do we have that as one of our values? And this is how we all are invited to show up and step up, and we all want to play in this space, right? Like we all get to play in this space. So what you were saying about like, how do I call somebody out that's not showing up?
Mm-hmm.
It's again, we're calling the person out instead of calling us all up to operate in the space of radical ownership. It's really, I think the power is in the we language. Instead of me going, Mark, you're really you're missing the mark. Like you are not taking ownership. You're making excuses. It's like, hey, around here, this is how we roll.
Yeah.
It's the language of we.
Yeah.
We own these things. We take responsibility. So what do you?
Yeah. And I think there's a time and a place for the crucial conversation when we see greater potential, like we talked about in the, can't remember the name of the episode now, but we talked about where Leonardo could see the potential in the.
Oh, when you see potential in others.
You know what? Sometimes you got to go chink a little piece of marble on there and help expose the potential, the statue that's inside the block of marble. Like you got to have those conversations. I think that's an important piece. I'm not discounting that with the conversation we're having here, but what we're talking about here is actually creating this culture, the system, the framework that drives accountability. And it's like you build it on the front end, right? And then you maintain your system as opposed to doing accountability reactively, which is what I think most people are doing. I'm thinking, as you guys have been talking about this, I've been reflecting back and like, should I even share this? And I think I should. There's this person is still in the industry and this company still exists. There's a seed company that we worked with a long time ago. And the CEO of the seed company would actually, at the company sales meeting, at the annual sales meeting, would hand out pink slips.
Interesting.
At the annual sales meeting. Now, what kind of culture does that create?
Yeah.
That is the epitome, like the most grotesque version of a reactive accountability culture that I'd ever seen. Right? People literally getting fired in front of their entire company.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
On stage. Right? This person does not deserve to have a business, in my opinion. Right. Certainly does not deserve to have the title of CEO or leader of those people.
Yeah, are they still in business?
Still in business, and nobody likes working there, as far as I know. But people do because, and then they rotate. They have incredibly high turnover, of course, right? I mean, like, how do you... So, but the, point being is, that's just such an extreme example. But on a micro scale, like when it's only about reactively, we are only doing accountability reactively, it's never going to be fun. And the example I mentioned, like, that's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Right? Just ridiculous. But that is like just a super big bastardization of what accountability is. What if accountability gets to be the primary tool for how we drive standards?
Well,
just set
think
it,
of it like
have conversation with people. Yeah.
Even as we talk about our marriage, I'm always about marriage and relationships, but we've taken the time to create an agreement, like a document that has our values and our North Star and our standards on it. And so whenever we have had conflict or misalignment, it's been so easy for us to hold each other accountable, because what we do is we basically are like, wait a second, remember that thing that we wrote together? Like, we wrote that together. This is what we said we're about. This is what we said we live by. Are we going to honor that, or are we now throwing that out? And we're calling each other up back to the agreement that we have, back to the standards, and back to the identity of just being the people who actually follow through, who honor that, who say, yeah, that's who we are, And so I think this whole fear of like, oh, I don't want to offend people. It's not about calling the person out. It's inviting them back to agreements, inviting them back to standards, inviting them to say, do you want to walk in integrity right now, or do you want to be out of integrity? Like at the end of the day, it's up to you, right? And so you're a man of integrity. I know you are. So let's go, right? And people just respond totally differently to that. I think, and I've seen wild success. What else did you talk about in the masterclass?
Well, I talked about so why is accountability so important? Is because if we don't have accountability, then what the message that sends is the results don't matter. Right? Like in our relationships, like if we don't have that standards, if we're not holding each other accountable to those standards of how we operate as a family in a relationship, then does the marriage really matter?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, it does. Right. So if the results matter, if the marriage matters, or pick whatever area you want to focus on, if they don't matter, or if they matter, then accountability matters.
Yeah.
And you have to show that. Right. So even on this lab, I asked the question to the folks, like, why do we not hold people accountable? And most folks were like, oh, because it's hard, and then the real reason why we don't hold people accountable is because we don't want to feel bad.
Mm-hmm.
If we hold somebody accountable and makes them feel bad.
So
it's always if we are not holding people accountable, if we're not holding our team accountable, it's not about them, it's actually about us.
And how I don't want to feel uncomfortable because you're uncomfortable.
Exactly. They could just tone some truth on some people. He's got right now for sure.
Right.
Because it's all of us. Like nobody wants to make somebody feel bad.
Yeah, 100%. But how bad would you feel?
The challenger in me thinks I gotta make you. Hey, challenge your personalities. Maybe have a different approach. Yeah. Well, you're right. That's often true, right? It's like, I don't want to squirm in your discomfort. So, and we do this everywhere. We do this as parents. We let our kids get away with stuff. Why? I don't want to see them upset because them getting upset makes me upset. Okay, well, so we're going to just keep appeasing.
Yeah.
And we create chaos in the process.
Yeah.
So good. Mm-hmm. All right. This has been incredibly good stuff, guys. This is a whole new different way of looking at it. I hope people are looking at accountability differently, actually, after listening to this. I am, so it's good.
Yeah. So we gave you some tools, practical, tactical things that you can do. Hopefully a new lens to look at accountability as really the structure that helps the whole team win and succeed and, help people rise up. And also open up an incredible amount of bandwidth.
Mm-hmm. Big time.
So, right.
Thanks for doing it, guys.